Hi everyone, it's Lou Collins. Today I'd like to show you how to use your Cricut Joy by designing in Cricut Design Space. Now this video is concentrating on using the mobile app, so you'll need to download that first. This is a beginner's guide, so it's going to run through the very basics and all the features of the Cricut Design Space app. So once you download the app from the App Store and you install it onto your phone or your tablet, that's going to be very similar. You're going to open up and have something like this, and this is just going to show you new fonts that you could potentially have, some featured images, and this will change week to week, so it's always worth having a browse through to see what's new. Now you'll notice on many of the images that we look at that you've got a little green A flag or banner beside it. This is just referring to Cricut's membership, and that's the Access membership. So anyone who has signed up to that membership and it is a paid element, they will have access to more than if you're using this as a free version. I'm going to concentrate on this assuming that you are not a Cricut Access member. Now we're going to want to go to Canvas, and that will open a new canvas for you. Now this is one that I was doing previously, so I'll just delete that. Now alternatively, you can simply press the plus sign on the home screen. So this is your working canvas, and this is where we're going to do all our designing. Now along the bottom we have lots of elements that we can add into our canvas. So we have images. If you click on images here, you've got lots that you could put in if you wish. And once they are in your canvas workspace, simply by clicking on them, you can move them around, you can resize them as well, and you can use those squares like so. So there's lots that you can do in the same way as you probably would with any sort of paint or image editing program on a computer. If you want to remove any element that you've put in, simply press the delete button. So you've got phrases, you've got text, you've got shapes. You can also upload your own images from your device as well. Now let's show you text, and when you put text in, you'll come up with your keyboard. Simply delete the text and type the word that you want to put. Now this is particularly handy for those of you who are card makers, scrapbookers, journalers, and you want particular phrases, sentiments and titles. Once you've typed your phrase, if you click done, if you click on any element in your workspace, it's going to highlight it with these boxes around, and you can highlight one element. If you have more than one, you can drag your finger over more than one, and that will highlight 2 or 3 at a time. At this stage, we can now, let's just make that a bit bigger by pulling on these squares. If you pull on the corners, it makes it bigger to scale, so it will keep the same ratio of height and width. With anything highlighted, you can edit elements of this, and that's in the Edit tab down at the bottom. So I'm going to hit Edit. I could now change my font. I could change the style, whether it's bold, italic, regular. If I want it for writing, with a pen, the draw feature in the Cricut, I can do that, and it will come to a writing font as well. Let's change this simply to bold so we can see it quite well. You can do things like your alignment and your letter spacing here. You can place it onto a curve as well, which is a really handy feature. It's a simple slider, so you can just curve it all the way to the right to curve downwards, or all the way to the left to curve upwards, and you simply drag it until you're happy with the shape that you've got. So I'm just going to put this back to 0 so there's no curve, and I can press cancel to just get rid of that. Now, if you've got this in your workspace and you think, well, actually, I would like to draw it, you can change the operation under this Edit tab as well by hitting Operation and then Pen, Apply, and you've got your drawn outlines there instead. We're going to assume today that we're going to cut this, so we'll go back to Basic Cut. Now, something that's really clever within all the elements that you can do on Cricut Workspace is that you can duplicate. So if I go to Actions here, I can duplicate this. I've now got 2 of these, and I like to add one of these as a border around the other. So for this, I'm going to need to come back to Edit again. So if we scroll along the bottom, hit Edit, scroll along until you find Offset, and you may see that you've got a red outline around your word now. This has offset it somewhat, but you can change the amount that it's offset the shape by by moving this slider back and forth. Give it a few seconds just to catch up. I like to have a few millimeters, so sort of ½ centimetre there of a border. That's perfect. You can then change options such as whether you want to have nice square corners or rounded corners on here. I would always suggest having weld offsets, particularly if you're doing this for a word. When you're happy, press done, and you'll notice you've now got an outline and you've also got the word as well. The word, I would then come back, go to actions and delete that. And if we use 2 fingers and we move down to our hello there, we've got the 2 together. Now one is going to sit perfectly over the other with a bit of an outline. If we cut both of these out on our mat, we're then going to have a fantastic drop shadow or border to make our sentiment really pop. If we were to now go to make it, to send this to our machine, this would come onto 2 separate pages. So you can see you've got your word hello there and you've got your border there. But we want these to cut out from the same mat at the same time, and we'll just put 2 different coloured cardstocks on. So let's come back and let's, as I said, hold down and drag so that we select both of these elements. And you want to go to attach down here. This is under the actions tab. So if we attach to make it, and you can see they're both now on my mat together. So we've just got the one mat. We can come here and we can change, if we want to, the material load type. So this is if we're using a smart material, for example, from Cricut, so we don't need a mat, or if we're using a special card mat. We can go to next and just make sure your machine is plugged in. Now my machine's plugged in, I can see that the Joy has shown up in the Bluetooth options there. So I can just click on that and it just takes a few seconds to find itself. Now it's asking me about my materials. So we've got lots of materials here. I've bookmarked a couple already that I know I like to use regularly. If we go to all materials, you'll see all the different options you've got here to look through. There's from shimmer paper, watercolour paper, different types of vinyl, all sorts. So I'm going to go to my bookmarked ones. Now the way that I bookmark them is simply by highlighting the little green flag against the ones that I like to use. So if I do the same for a light cardstock there, then go to bookmarked, I've got my 3 different weights of cardstock that I regularly use. So I'm going to go to medium. So just saying it's going to put medium through. Load your tool, which I have already. Now if you're drawing, of course you're going to want to load your pen in now, and then load your mat into the machine. And then once that's done, you can press go. Your machine will start doing the cutting or the drawing, whichever you've set it to do. And when it's finished, you can hit unload and that will bring the mat out of the machine. And you've made some cuts. So you can see that Cricut Design Space is really simple to use. You can add simple things like shapes, for example. You can add phrases in as well, and you can filter all of these. So you can filter them so that they are free. You could also filter them so that they have the language that suits you best. And don't forget to explore Cricut Design Space, because you're not going to be able to make any mistakes. Just press buttons and see what every element does. So I hope this has been a helpful overview of Cricut Design Space for you using the mobile app. Very, very similar if you're using a tablet, and if you prefer to use a computer, don't forget to check out all of the YouTube videos that we've got on the CraftStash YouTube channel.